In this video, I just want to demonstrate the basic use of the Learning Object Relation Discovery plugin and how it integrates with the Behavior Analytics plugin. So I've got both LORD and Behavior Analytics here installed in a course. The settings for the LORD block will show the LORD block by default, but you can turn that off. And the relation discovery process is turned off by default, which means that none of the learning material will get extracted from the learning objects and sent to the WordNet similarity calculator. So if you want that to happen, of course, you turn this on as administrator, and it's also in the block settings itself. You'll have to turn that on to start and stop the discovery process. So long as that's turned on and cron is set up properly, the scheduled tasks for Moodle, then that stuff will all run in the background. It'll extract the learning object content from all the course modules, and it'll iteratively send those to the WordNet similarity calculator to calculate the similarity between learning objects. So there's a few other settings from the block available. You can choose how many paragraphs you want to compare, how many sentences in each paragraph, and the maximum number of words to allow in a sentence. And that basically controls how much content is compared. This one here, the maximum number of words, can be helpful to reduce that later if you get errors. I'll talk about that more in a moment. And then you can also weight the comparisons differently. So there's names for each of the learning objects. So if you have this here, for instance, learning object, the assistance for students with disabilities, that's the name. That would be the name, and then there's also an intro, and then there's the paragraph and other content. So you can weight each of those separately when the graph itself is getting built. We've got some research or some reset options if you want to clear things out, start all over again kind of thing. And then you can, the learning content, I extract stop words and anything, of course, that's not in WordNet. So this is just a list of stop words. There's a default list. You can add to that or take away if you want to use those instead. You can remove those from the stop word list, and then they will get included in the similarity calculation. So that's just a little overview of the settings. So once you get things set up, you get the setting to start the relation discovery process. So you got that set up as administrator. That's set up in the course. That'll run in the background. It can take a while to do that. The block here shows a table. It says how many learning activities, how many connections between the activities, and how many connections have been analyzed. So once that's completed 100% with 0 errors, like I say, if you get errors, usually that just means that it's pulling really long sentences and the similarity calculation is timing out. So you just go back into settings and reduce this number here, the maximum number of words to allow in a sentence, and it'll again just run in the background, and it should take care of those errors if you get that threshold set low enough. And that, again, it can take quite a while depending on how many learning objects are in the course and just how much content needs to be analyzed. It does a few similarity calculations at a time. It's set up to run every 5 minutes, I think. So, I mean, if you just got a few connections, and maybe a few minutes it'll be done. But a lot of these courses, it can take days or weeks to process all that. So it's a slow process, runs in the background. But once that's all done, we can go to view the graph here, and it'll automatically generate these based on the similarity between nodes. So from this view here, won't allow changes just so that we can't move anything. We can hover over, find out the name of these nodes. If you want to see the similarity, left click on one, right click on the other. That'll bring up the modules, their names, their introductions, and none of these have any other content, but see, that one has some paragraphs and sentences, so you can see all the content that gets extracted. And below that, their total similarity value would be up here. And below that we just have a bunch of tables that shows kind of how the similarity was calculated and where those numbers come from, and you can poke through here and see how this sentence is compared with this sentence, and this is how this word lines up with this word, and the total similarity between these sentences is this, and there's a bunch of different sentences and how sentence 0 compares to sentence 0, and so on and so forth to get the total similarity between sentences. There's just a bunch of information there. So from here, it'll automatically generate this graph. We have to allow changes, of course. We can regenerate it. We can change different values here. You can just play around with that and try and get a graph that you think looks good, looks the way you want it to. It's spaced separately and stuff like that. And if things aren't quite looking, you can, as long as you allow changes, you can then go ahead and drag these things anywhere you want, pretty much. Position things fairly arbitrarily as well, if you want to do that. But in either case, and that'll put up two graphs. So we have, if you manipulate a graph, it becomes a custom graph. If you don't, it's just a regular generated graph. And so basically the plugin kind of saves two graphs. Anytime you regenerate a graph, it'll replace the generated graph. Anytime you move nodes around, it'll replace the custom graph. So it only stores two graphs, kind of thing. So that's how to use the Lord plugin. So to integrate it with Behavior Analytics plugin, we'll have to go to the admin options for the Behavior Analytics plugin, and here we'll find a option to integrate with the Lord plugin. So we need to check that to yes. By default to no. So once we do that, refresh the page here, and you can see this Lord integration options. A new link will show up there, so we can click on that. Say, do we actually want to use the graph from Lord? Yes. Do we want to use the custom graph or the system generated graph? And that's how you can choose between those two graphs, or you can choose to use or not use the graph from the Lord plugin. If you're set up to use the Lord plugin, when you go to configure resource nodes or view student behavior or anything like that, you're going to see the graph from the Lord plugin rather than the graph that normally gets generated with the Behavior Analytics plugin. And so same as before, if you want, you can manually change all that. If you do change the Lord plugin from here, it's no longer considered a Lord graph, and if you want to see it and you want to use it, you have to go back into Lord integration options and then uncheck that, and that'll allow you to use the manipulated Lord graph that you manipulated in Behavior Analytics. That's pretty much the basics of how to integrate the plugins. When you come in here, now you can do all the same things as before. So I won't go through with how to use the Behavior Analytics plugin. I've got another video for that. So basically, that's how to integrate it with Lord. That's how to take the graph from Lord, use it within the Behavior Analytics plugin.